I am on my way now to go ahead and do a interview with Jeff Santos, Virginia Paranormal Investigations. I'm really excited to meet a ghost hunter. All right, let's go meet Jeff. Here we go. Hey.
How's it going?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm filming everything, but don't
Sure,
worry.
absolutely. I do the same thing.
Yeah, I'm really glad to finally meet you, man.
Yeah,
we've
glad
been
to meet
talking
you
for a
too.
while.
I loved your video
I appreciate
from
it.
Crawford Road.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to have you here today.
Yeah, glad to be
definitely
here.
wanted to get an interview with an actual ghost hunter. So I wanted to kind of take this opportunity for any skeptics out there that don't believe in ghosts, to get the opportunity to hear from an actual ghost hunter, you know, your experiences and the things that you've come across.
Right.
So today I want to talk a little bit about Virginia Paranormal Investigations. So tell me a little bit about how it started, what you guys do, and especially that YouTube channel with gas rather than ghosts.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, the team itself, I was always into the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my dad was always watching these unsolved mysteries and everything from aliens to ghosts. And so I grew up with it. And when I was old enough to drive, of course, that's what I would do. We'd go out every Friday and Saturday night. We wouldn't be at parties. We'd be driving these creepy haunted roads. You know, in the Brandywine Valley, I grew up in northern Delaware.
Okay.
So that's where we'd go. But 2008, I was in the Air Force, and I met this guy, Scott, and we were doing some training down in Valdosta, Georgia together. And of course, I mentioned how, you know, I'm really interested in the paranormal, and I was like, we should see if there's any urban legends around here that we could go explore, you know, because we're in this, it's kind of a unique opportunity. We're all the way down here. And he was like, yeah, you know, I was actually used to be with the team up in Whiteman, Missouri, and we would go out and kind of debunk a bunch of things and, you know, explore all these haunted places. So it started out like that, and, you know, just a couple of guys having fun. And, you know, when we got back from our deployment, we ended up starting a kind of an informal team called Virginia Paranormal Investigations. And we would just go out to places that were free, like Crawford Road, just to experiment and kind of get some methods together and see what's there, see what works, what doesn't. And it just kind of grew from there. Probably about 5 years into it, we started getting calls from residential investigations from people whose houses are supposed to be haunted, or at least they're experiencing strange things that they can't explain. And that's primarily what we do now. We go out to private residents. Can you move that for me? See if you can roll me the ball.
Yeah, I saw that you guys went to an actual residential house. People actually live in it, and you got to go in the bedroom and just kind of like sit there, listen to is it the sound box?
The spirit box.
Spirit box. And just listen to the spirit box. You put a ball on the ground, asking for them to push it, and then just kind of like asking for a sign or anything like that. What was like the first experience that you had when you went ghost hunting? Like, you know, it probably started off like, well, let's go do this and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then what was the first time where I was like, well, I think this is real?
Well, there were, of course, quite a few times in the Brandywine Valley that there were some interesting things that happened.
Yeah.
One was a woman. We were going down this road, and it's just, there's no houses. It's a small back road, just woods all around, and we come to a dead end. So we're making a U-turn. I'm trying to do like this 3-point turn to get out of there. And as I'm turning, my headlights fall on this woman just standing there in the woods, and she's standing on top of this mound, like this dirt mound. And we're like, you know, I mean, I don't know to what degree it was paranormal, but we were like, that's really weird.
And it was
because
late at night, right?
Yeah, it was like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning.
Just a woman standing in the woods.
Standing in the woods on top of this mound, just staring at us. So it kind of scared us a little bit. You know, we were an amateur and just like, we need to get out of here before, you know, something crazy happens.
Yeah.
But I don't know why she was there. You know, it's just kind of weird because, like I said, no cars, no houses around. And then there was another incident. We were driving down and we saw someone, a girl walking along the side of the road. And I, with my friend, he was a skeptic, and I was like, you know, that's probably a ghost, because what else is she doing out here at 2 o'clock in the morning, walking along this long country road? Once again, no houses around, just fields.
Yeah, like getting hitching rides.
Right.
Yeah.
And she didn't look like that. I mean, she looked like a regular girl carrying a backpack. You know, and I was like, I bet if we turn around right now, she's not there. So he's like, go ahead. So I turned around, and sure enough, we drove up that road. She wasn't there. Really, it's not like on TV. You know, you watch these TV shows, and every time they go somewhere, all hell's breaking loose.
It's like, oh my God, what was that? It touched me again.
Right. And I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I've seen an actual figure or something that definite, and that was one of the places. No, I don't think I've ever been really a skeptic.
Yeah.
I've always just believed there was more out there.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you do your investigations, like say you do like a residential place, do you go into it thinking, let's go ahead and let's find a ghost or find what this thing is, or do you go in thinking, well, maybe it's just the pipes, maybe it's just this or this? What is your mindset when you go into a residential type haunting?
I usually go in with an open mind. And, if it was something paranormal, it wouldn't surprise me, though. If there's a natural explanation, it wouldn't surprise me. And of course, what we do is we always look for any rational explanation, anything we can roll out. Because if we can say, this could be the pipes, this could be rodents, this could be this,
right,
then anyone else could say that. And of course, we don't have hard evidence at that point. So we try to eliminate any possible explanation for what could be going on, and then try to gather the evidence. Now, one thing what we'll do, recently what I've been doing, is I'll go in and I'll do the interview with the client, and I'll find out all the hot spots, all the activity that's going on, and the team will actually wait outside. So then when I come outside, I have them do walkthroughs in groups of 2,
okay,
and see if they, because none of them are mediums or anything like that, but if the client, who's also not a medium, says, I feel funny in this one room, or I feel like there's something there, I feel like I'm not alone in the basement, and they go in and they kind of get those same sensations in those same areas without being biased at all, it kind of, at least for us, confirms with what the client's saying, that there is something there that's causing these feelings.
And they're like, guess what, guys? She just told me that this happened in this room, and they're like, oh my gosh, really?
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, that's happened several times. Like, sometimes they've come out, of course, and said, I didn't really feel anything strange, or, nothing really seemed uneasy to me. But other times it would be spot on. There was one lady up on the Eastern Shore, and we went in, and I did the interview with her, and I went in with Linda, and she said, I feel like there's something with this hallway right here, like something that comes down this hallway. And she's not a medium at all, but for some reason she said, it's almost like I'm getting the vibe that a woman is wandering about this hallway, and she goes into that closet. So the lady said that sure enough, there is a woman that she sees come down that hallway, peek around the corner, and where that closet is, she didn't even tell me this part, she said where that closet is, that used to lead to where the kitchen was before the house burned down, the house that sat there before. So it's like, it was interesting because she saw this, then Linda, without having any idea that there was even a woman involved.
Mm-hmm. So it's sort of like a residual haunting, just the ghost is on repeat, just doing the same routine that they normally would have
Exactly.
done while they were living.
Exactly.
So you happen to bring up mediums on your News Channel 3 interview that you did at Crawford Road.
Actually, some of the spirits of people who have been killed along this road, she felt that their spirits were still here, and this thing kind of kept them here, and it guarded this area.
You happen to say that you guys had brought a medium with you, and you said that there was a ghost there that would trap the spirits of the other ghosts in the area. So for a lot of skeptics, they see mediums on TV and this, and they're saying, they can, they're BS, and they can say whatever they want to say. With your experiences with mediums, how spot on have they been? How accurate would you think that they are?
I'd say with mediums, I definitely believe in the ability, but to actually find one is a rare find. There's so many that claim to be mediums,
Right.
and they're very vague. Or they say things that can be picked up just by walking through someone's house, looking at their belongings, and getting an idea of who these people are.
Yeah.
There was a man, Harry Price, the first person used the term ghost hunter back in like the 1930s, and he would give demonstrations of this. Like, he would pull someone out of the crowd and tell all this information about them, and they'd think he was a medium, and then he'd explain how he did it. So by being observant, you can do a lot of that stuff. But the case with the medium on Crawford Road, I'm not sure, because I didn't see what she said she saw. But what I did find interesting about it is there was another girl that mentioned it. She was out of Norfolk. She didn't, to my knowledge, know this medium that we had worked with previously. I don't see how they would have even known each other, because the one was from up north. But she caught my attention because she mentioned the same guardian figure. She described him as the same way, being very tall and lanky and dark, and he kind of guards this area. She didn't mention keeping the spirits there, but it was just interesting that they both mentioned this guardian.
Yeah.
But with a legit medium, I've worked with one at least, and she's walked into a place and I've seen her describe the ghost that was there as this woman's grandmother to a T, right down to her personality, to the smell of her perfume, to the way she would dress. And it was impressive, because there was no way that I could have seen that she could have come up with that. It's not like the lady, and I walked through, are there pictures of the grandmother out? Is there any of her is there anything that she could be looking at? Yeah, and there was nothing.
The science behind ghosts, sort of. What, without getting religious or anything like that, what do you think causes a ghost? And like, what is it? Can it be scientifically explained at any point, and we just don't have the knowledge yet of it?
I think it's going to be very difficult to explain it scientifically, because it's basically in the sense that we think someone's uncle passed away and they haunt the house. This is a person that you're dealing with, but a person who can do things beyond what we even know. Some have believed that ghosts are not even on this plane. It's not like they're always in that house. They can step back into their plane of existence and completely fade out of ours, so there's no way to detect them. And there's only certain moments where they step through the veil, if you will, and make themselves known. So for science to be able to capture this in a controlled environment, you would need a very cooperative ghost who has the means to sit down and say, all right, let's test and see what kind of field you give off. Can you talk through this recorder? Can you activate this device? It'd be very difficult. And I think that's why science so much veers away from it. Plus, there's a lot of people out there using a lot of, off-the-wall things to try to detect these ghosts and presenting it as hard evidence, and it's really not. But also, one fault I find with science is they take the absence of proof as proof that it doesn't exist.
Right.
And just because we haven't found proof of it yet doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
30, 40 years that we've really been able to, try to even capture these type of spirits with the technology that we have. So I'm hoping that eventually there will be some type of, maybe not hard evidence, but something where people are like, wow, this is interesting. Like they're all the variables have been removed. Like it was a completely clean environment. Like there's no way this could have happened naturally. And the people are genuine, and the technology was working perfectly fine. I really hope that sometime that eventually that will happen.
Yeah. And I think some of that stuff's out there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if somebody sees something that's too compelling,
Yeah.
they'll be like, oh, well, that's good
It's
Photoshop.
It's
You know what I mean?
Photoshop, Yeah. So I kind of want to take a look at a few pictures that I found, some famous ghost pictures.
Sure.
And I kind of want to get your thoughts on it. So this picture right here was taken. They do ghost tours, and this tour guide was leading them down into the basement underneath the dining hall, and they were just taking random pictures as they're going through. And this picture captures a little girl in pink.
I can see her right there to the left.
She was not there.
Well, I'd have to say two things, I guess. First, I would just want to see, just to compare, a picture from this same angle that was clear, like a second picture. I looked at that and I immediately saw the girl there. But I would just want to rule out any possibility of anything else, especially with the camera being slightly blurry. You can see by the light switches and such, it's kind of in motion when the picture's taken. I would just want to make sure that there's nothing there at the end of that table, no kind of plant or anything else that could possibly be causing us to matrix. Because I've had that happen in looking through pictures, where we would look at a picture and we'd say, wow, it looks like there's something in this picture. But then we'd look at another one from a different angle or from that same room and see that there was actually something in that room that had a natural explanation. And that's why, of course, for an actual investigation, we always do the baseline pictures. So we get pictures of every room from every angle, and at least duplicates. If it was, like it appeared to me, clearly a girl, like the other thing they would probably say as well, we weren't there when it was taken, so we don't know that. We're just going on their word. Right. And so that's what's so hard to produce evidence.
I believe it was taken in the 1800s. It was some South American church they took a picture of, and you just have this strange looking, it looks like
the thing from Scream.
It seems so framed that it sort of looks.
Yeah, and I know back then they used to play around with ghost photography with double exposure. But if this one definitely isn't an accident, because you can look at the bottom of the robe, and you can see it's draping down over the stairs.
Love Star Wars, but that's definitely some Obi-Wan Kenobi
It
sitting
is.
on a log kind of thing.
It is.
The way it drapes over the stairs, I never noticed that. And then this is from the Amityville Horror. And in Lorraine Warren, the people from The Conjuring and
Right,
everything,
right.
the real thing. And you said they were taking pictures of kind of setting a default, like
Right.
this is what it looks like. And you can see in the image, there's a person walking, there's a guy, he's walking through with the camera and stuff. And then in one of the other images, the same hallway, same frame and everything, you see this little boy peeping
Wow.
out of the door. And if you compare the image to this little boy and the actual boy, I believe he was like DeFeo Jr.,
Right.
looks exactly like him.
There's no explanation for that. The only thing people can say when they look at it is, once again, how do we know?
One of the things that you see from skeptics is, yeah, we weren't there, and the whole point of ghost hunters going there is to find something.
Right.
But most of the time, I've gone on at least a dozen, and only 3 times have I ever got even an EVP out of hours of being there
That's exactly right.
for just
Yeah.
2 seconds of a voice.
Right, right. And we started doing where we would, if we can, we'd spend the whole night at the place.
Yeah.
Because it's like seeing a shooting star. You go out for an hour, you might not see one, but if you stay out in your yard the whole night, you have a better chance of catching something.
Mhm.
Yeah, and this one I think is one that they were never able to debunk, the brown lady.
Yeah.
They were never able to, they've had experts look at this.
You notice how it's not draping over their steps. It's like there is some kind of mist or a fog, but you can clearly tell that there is a shape of a woman there.
Right.
This is the one that I told you about of me being in the basement, and I wanted to kind of hear from another paranormal investigator what you think. So again, this is me in the basement, completely by myself, 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and just me and my cat.
This voice recorder is still on, okay? You can talk into it. I'm gonna head back upstairs.
Back.
The voice after you said I'm gonna head upstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely heard that voice. Yeah.
Now I'll slow it down and isolate just the EVP.
Huh.
Now I'll slow it down and isolate just.
Oh, it does
It's-
sound. It almost sounds like it's got some kind of accent.
But that was the thing that I was like, wow, this is real. And then so after that, I've always wanted to try to recreate that or get something else like that. So I've only gotten 2 other things since then, but they're not as clear as that is.
Right.
So we're talking about evidence. Do you think that orbs can be some kind of evidence for spirits? I know a lot of skeptics will say, oh, that's dust or a bug or something like that. What can you, by looking at an image, what can you tell the difference between what's dust, what's a bug, and what's an orb?
Well, the paranormal orbs are ones that emit their own light, and they've even been seen with the naked eye, like without a camera, without being a picture. I've heard people talking about. I've had cases where one lady said it would come out of the bedroom and she'd see it literally floating across the living room into the fireplace. Now there are, of course, the environmental factors when you're taking the pictures, because especially with a lot of people using iPhones and such to take pictures, the proximity, the flash to the lens is a lot closer, the lens is a lot smaller. So a lot of times it will get more natural orbs. It will, if you're outside in the summer, you'll get a lot of bugs that'll appear as orbs, and if it's damp in the air, you can get these water molecules, water particles that appear as orbs. Dust inside of houses, even when the house isn't really very dusty, it's just they're so small, and you'll see them, a lot of videos that people will show where it'll look like all these orbs are blown by, and it's really dust, but they're like, my house isn't that dusty. Well, you gotta understand, like, these ones they're not as big. If you see an orb that's like over there by the doorway and it looks like it's taking up the whole door, it's not really in the doorway, it's right up by
Next
the
to the
lens,
camera.
So, but there are a lot of ones that appear differently than the bugs, the dust, the water molecules. Look for the nucleus of the orb, the center of it, and is it indeed giving off its own, does it
Light.
seem to be giving off its own luminescence?
And I noticed with some orbs, you can tell if it's dust or anything like that because it looks like almost like snow
Right.
coming across. While orbs, you'll kind of see it'll like a UFO. It will kind of like go in and then it'll shoot this way and
Right.
do this
And bugs
this.
don't change direction
No.
like that.
Mhm.
Dust doesn't change direction like that, you know?
No. Cool.
Yeah, so if you're talking about video, yeah, that's
Yeah.
another thing. Anything that changes, you know, when it comes in and it stops and shoots back the other way.
Now, I've never gotten a video of an orb necessarily. Have you guys ever gotten anything like that?
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of times it comes from surveillance cameras. When someone contacts us, they'll send us some of the footage from their surveillance cameras that are up, and we'll see cases where it is like that, where, you know, you do see it comes out in the middle of the screen, just stops, and then starts back the other way.
And then that's when you guys are like, yeah, we need to go here.
Right, right.
That's where it's at.
Yeah.
So what is the scariest thing that's happened to either yourself or someone else in your group while doing a paranormal investigation?
There was a house that we did an investigation at, where we called it the murder house because it was.
That's a good name for a house to investigate, the murder house.
Well, the murder actually took place across the street,
Oh, okay.
but this house was kind of involved. One of the victims made it over this house to ask for help.
Which house is it? Because
This is in Gloucester.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's in Gloucester, and
Okay.
it's a private residence. I mean, it happened back in 1992, where the daughter came home with the two friends, the fiance and the friend. And they killed the father, killed the sister, and they thought they killed the mother, but
Okay.
they didn't kill the mother. She came over to this house, and now the woman was seeing like a couple of apparitions. One was of the father, who was killed in the murder, and another one was of the young man. But the young man that she was seeing was one of the men that committed the murders. He wasn't even dead yet. He was in jail. So she was seeing like a living ghost. But a priest went into the house and he basically told them to get out. He's like, get out, don't mess around, don't try to stay here.
When a priest says they can't help you, you know,
He said the priest went down to the basement, stopped at the bottom step, and threw the holy water out in the basement. And then he's like, you gotta leave. He wouldn't even go into the basement. But we went through the whole house. And when we came back, Linda was reviewing the audio, and I had gone out of town.
I was here listening to him by myself when I first started going through the audio, and the things that I was hearing was enough to make me shut it off.
Started playing that, a voice came across the spirit box, and it was a disturbing voice. It was like we introduced ourselves, and the voice came across and said, "Yes, indeed," and then it came across and said "evil" or something to that effect. Well, then strange things started happening around the house. She had that feeling of not being alone, figure walking by the doorway, and of course she was there alone. So that was probably one of the more startling ones, because then you got something home with you, you know. But she was able to get rid of it. She said she, you know, played the audio Bible and just left it playing and said some prayers, did some other things, and when she came back home from work the next day, it was gone, whatever was there.
Some of the, like, I guess they're funnier questions, but some of the questions that some people might have about ghost hunters in the day-to-day life. You know, why do ghost hunters do ghost investigations at night? Why not during the day?
We've done some during the day. Yeah, and what we typically do is when we get a call. Now, of course, it's easier for us to go at night after work and everything else. But there are times, you know, Saturdays and stuff, and if it's a fairly close investigation, we can get out there during the day. But we usually ask them, when does the activity happen? And 9 times out of 10, that's when they say it happens at night. Now, I think a lot of the times this is because this is when people are home. This is when people are in their houses. They're really more alert to what's going on in the house. Also, if you think about it, it's quieter, you know. It's typically quieter at night, so you can hear more, you can experience more. I've heard a theory that, and I don't know how true it is, but something to do with the solar rays of the sun make it difficult for spirits to manifest.
Okay, I can see that. It's like the absence of energy that all of a sudden they're able to manifest in that absence. Okay, and then of course, like when you see darkness, your eyes kind of refocus, and you're not really seeing everything that you're really seeing.
Right.
Okay.
You don't have the light contamination. You don't have the noise pollution. You know, everything's quieter.
What is the difference between a residual haunting and intelligent haunting, and maybe even poltergeist?
Well, the main difference is the residual hauntings, they will not interact with people. And I always like to bring up the battlefields because it seems to be at times of great emotion that these residual hauntings are created. They always seem to take place in an area where something like that has happened. For example, Gettysburg, there have been people that have been out on tours and seen this entire battle going on, and they find out that there were no reenactors out there that day. It's amazing. But these residual hauntings are not so much a spirit. They don't have, it's not like in the sense that we would think of a soul, of a conscious spirit that can make decisions, that can acknowledge people, that can look at somebody when they walk in the room. It's more of an energy, just replaying itself. And an interesting concept is, in these battles, not everybody in that battle died. Some people survived the battles, several did. Hypothetically speaking, they could go back to that battle scene a couple years later and see a residual haunting of themselves.
Right. Because it's just the emotion, the energy that was left on that field.
Right, right. Same with ghost ships or any kind of vehicles or objects that seem to appear. It would be the same thing because, you know, a ship doesn't have a soul. You know.
Same thing at my parents' house. My grandfather used to smoke tobacco pipe a lot. And so every once in a while you walk around the house and smell tobacco pipe, which is pretty interesting. So I think that would kind of fall in that category of a residual.
Absolutely. Sights, smells, sounds. It doesn't necessarily just have to be an apparition.
Starting out ghost hunting, what are some good places to go to? Not necessarily in the Hampton Roads area, but some other places that's a good starting point for them.
Generally speaking, any place that you don't have to pay money for, because you got to reserve some of the big, or at least you don't have to pay a lot of money for. You know, nowhere that would be trespassing or get you in trouble with the law, because that'll, you know, ruin your reputation and possibly the reputation of the field. Yeah. I mean, well, if they tell you to leave, like Crawford Road or something like that, that's different. But, you know, like don't break into any place that says no trespassing or anything like that. And then, of course, think safety. You know, if you're going somewhere and you're going to be alone, probably not a good idea, but a lot of people do it. I've done it. But you want to probably pick a place that's going to be more centrally located, where there's going to be people around, at least not too far from, you know, a city or an area that you can get to if you need to. The whole thing with it is you want time to work on your methods, work on your approach, see what works, what doesn't, experiment. And it's best to do that in a place, like I said, where you don't have to pay a lot of money to reserve the place, and then, you know, you didn't get anything or it wasn't what you expected. So you go to these free places, these urban legends, stuff like that. Even just a historic town, like if you go down and walk around Yorktown, walk down Main Street along the waterfront, there's a lot of spirits that have been seen. And Yorktown's a good place, actually, specifically because, especially in the colonial village, because the police actively patrol it, and they're not going to mess with you. They're not, as long as you're not breaking the law. You know, they're not going to be. They don't care what time of night you're out there. They know people go down there and look for ghosts. So it's a safe place, and it's a place that's very active, and it's free.
But so to kind of wrap it up, you know, tell them a little bit about Virginia Paranormal Investigations. I know that you guys, you know, do go. You can do residential calls as well. You have a website, a YouTube channel.
Sure. Yeah, our YouTube channel is Virginia Paranormal, and there's a kind of a variety of videos that we put on there, and some of them are not well received, but others are a little better received than some. We do two primary: the Virginia Paranormal Case Files, which is just the investigations, and the evidence review. And a lot of times there really is no evidence. We still present the case just so people can see how we do an investigation and what the claims are. And then the Gas Grubbing Ghost is basically just kind of like a vlog of the entire weekend. Everywhere we stop along the way, random conversations along the way. So it's something that if you're not really into ghosts and you don't like the scarier stuff, which our other ones aren't scary, but they're more lighthearted, I like to think.
Well, that's cool that you guys don't just do ghosts, but you do other myths and legends as well.
Right, anything paranormal. We actually get a few calls here and there about involving extraterrestrials.
And then you guys do tours as well. What is where can they find you for the tours?
Yeah, Yorktown Ghost Walks. YorktownGhostWalks.com. I give the tours down there. I wrote the Ghost of Yorktown, the book, and then the tours just kind of came naturally after that.
Well, thank you so much for coming in
Yeah.
today.
Thanks for
I
having me.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. And so check out Jeff Santos and his whole team with Virginia Paranormal Investigations. Check out his YouTube channel, Virginia Paranormal. Thanks, guys.